To escape the arranged marriage from my family, I bought 2 plane tickets and made a deal with my girlfriend to see the aurora in Iceland together. But when it was almost time to board, I found out she'd blocked me on all contact platforms. I refused to give up, so I stayed at the airport, waited till dark, and never saw her. It wasn't until my wedding night with my arranged spouse that I learned Su Mengyao took 10 million yuan from my family. 10 million or me? She chose the 10 million. I finally gave up all hope and became the mysterious Mr. Mu in North City. 4 years later, my ex made it big with her startup in the US and suddenly returned to China with hundreds of billions in assets and asked to meet me right away. I knew I shouldn't have come. When I got married, Mu Wanning already told me she wouldn't hold my past against me. But from then on, I could only be her husband. That was the condition for her to bail my family out. But I still can't get over that unannounced departure from years ago. I came to this meeting to return all the stuff she gave me before, so we can be even for good. Long time no see. What would you like to drink? I held a yellow cardboard box and set it on the table with just the right amount of force. I'm here to return all these things. Su Mengyao's gaze fell on the yellow cardboard box. It was mostly filled with gifts she gave me back then, about what happened back then. I can explain. No need. I looked up and stared straight at her. I'm already married. After a few seconds of silence, Su Mengyao spoke in a very soft voice. Is she good to you? My wife treats me really well. Really? Su Mengyao looked like she could see right through me. But you don't love her. Love her or not, she's still my wife. I didn't want to drag this out with her. I yanked open the private room door and left without looking back. No one noticed the security camera high up in the corridor. Its red light flickered on and off quietly. I got back to my home in Emerald Bay. It was pitch black when I pushed the door open, but a faint smell of alcohol drifted through the air. I was startled and looked up abruptly. The room lights turned on right at that moment. Mu Wanning was sitting by the floor-to-ceiling window, looking at me calmly. You look pretty surprised. Did you do something wrong behind my back? My heart instantly leaped to my throat. I forced myself to stay calm. No, I thought no one was home. Your assistant said you wouldn't be back till the day after tomorrow. That was the original plan. Mu Wanning stood up, walked to the sofa and sat down, and looked up at me. Come here. I walked over to the sofa. The next second, she wrapped her arms around my neck, tugged me closer and sat right on my lap. Then she asked, Where did you go? My heart was pounding like crazy. I met an old classmate. Girl or guy? I pulled myself together. A guy, obviously. Mu Wanning's voice was totally flat. Really? She let out an ambiguous laugh, put her hand on my lower back, and knelt fully on the sofa. Maybe she was in a bad mood. She asked for it many times that night. After we finished, Mu Wanning rested her face on my chest. I froze slightly. Mu Wanning spoke in a cold, flat voice. Carry me to shower. This was the first time Mu Wanning had ever acted this soft and girly. Before, she always showered and went to bed alone after we were intimate, after soaking in the hot tub for 20 minutes. I was totally worn out. I didn't see her in the bedroom when I walked out of the bathroom. I figured she went to the study. I was so tired my eyelids were heavy. I fell asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow. The next morning, I was woken up by my phone ringing. The soreness all over my body hadn't faded yet. I half opened my eyes and glanced at the screen. It was Zha Xiaonian, Mu Wanning's assistant. Sir, we have a ton of work at the end of the year. President Mu is swamped with work and won't be coming home for the next few days. I agreed quietly. I just hung up the phone when my best buddy Li Hao called me out of nowhere. Peixian Su Mengyao is back in China. Did you meet her? I was a little surprised. How did you know? It's not just me who knows. The whole world knows. You two were photographed by paparazzi. It's blowing up all over the hot search right now. My heart skipped a beat. I hung up the phone in a hurry and opened Weibo. The #1 hot search was exactly Su Mengyao returns to China and secretly meets her white moonlight. The hashtag has a glaring explosive tag right after it. Click into the hashtag page. The most popular video has already gotten over 10,000 reposts. In the video, Su Mengyao and I entered the private room one after another and left one after another later, though we didn't have any intimate movements. But when you pair the name Su Mengyao with the super special term white moonlight, it's enough to get the public guessing all kinds of things. Netizens soon dug up my identity too. Turns out I'm the husband of Mu Wanning, head of the Mu Group. This news pushed the gossip straight to its peak. I took a deep breath and forced myself to calm down. I called Mu Wanning right away, hoping to explain everything clearly to her. But all I heard was a cold automated female voice saying, Sorry, the number you have dialed is powered off. I immediately called Xia Xiaonian next. It was also powered off. I had no idea if they were busy or just turned off their phones on purpose to avoid my calls. I had no choice but to try again later. I went back inside the house. I opened Mu Wanning's WeChat chat window. Sorry, I can explain this. It's not what you think. Right after I sent the messages, my father Pei Shanhe called me. His voice was filled with barely contained rage. Did you really meet Su Mengyao? Didn't I warn you? To never see her again. Do you have any idea what you're doing? You're already married. I tried to speak up to explain. I just wanted to... But Pei Shanhe cut me off. I don't care what you wanted. Apologize to Wanning right now. Even if you have to kneel, make her forgive you. This can't affect the Pei family's business, no matter what. I felt so helpless. Her phone is off. Then keep calling. Call until she turns it on. Pei Shanhe's voice was ice cold. She's deliberately ignoring you. Can't you tell? My aunt and uncle on my dad's side, and all kinds of Pei family relatives took turns, calling me to lecture me. The last time I felt this kind of pressure was when I eloped with Su Mengyao 4 years ago. I sat on the couch in a daze until it was dark. Mu Wanning never replied to my WeChat messages. Her phone was still off. I stared at the dark night outside the window. I got up, left the house, and headed for the Mu Group headquarters. The receptionist looked at me with obvious curiosity and gossip in her eyes. Sir, President Mu is occupied, and she won't be coming to the office for the next few days. Whether she's actually busy or not is pretty obvious. I got back in my car. I suddenly had no idea what to do. 10 p.m. that night, a piece of news blew up the entire internet. Mu Wanning and Pei Xian are getting divorced. This hashtag became an explosive trending topic again. The next day, as soon as the stock market opened, Pei Group's stock plummeted hard. It hit the limit down at 3 p.m. Pei Shanhe was as anxious as a cat on a hot tin roof. He told me to come home to discuss countermeasures. As soon as I walked through the door, I saw a crowd of people surrounding the living room. My dad Pei Shanhe, my mom, He Wanking, and all the Pei family relatives. Even my little brother, who's in his 4th year of college. Pei Shixu came back specially for this. When he saw me, his face was full of contempt. He opened his mouth and started yelling. Can you hurry up and fix this? If Sister Wanning divorces you, what's going to happen to the Pei family? What about my study abroad tuition? My gaze turned cold. I slapped Pei Shixu hard across the face. The clothes you wear, the things you use, even your college tuition. Every single thing is paid for with my money. What makes you think you can lecture me? You... Pei Shixu covered his face, eyes wide with shock, looking extremely wronged. That's Sister Wanning's money. You didn't earn it. What are you so cocky about? Pei Shanhe spoke up. Don't talk nonsense. Pei Shixu turned around and grabbed He Wanking. Mom... He Wanting immediately pulled him into her arms to protect him, turned to me and yelled angrily, How dare you hit someone? Look at how rude and unreasonable you are. No wonder Wanning wants to divorce you. How did I give birth to such a rebellious, unfilial son? First you wanted to elope with someone years ago, now you... Those old, outdated, trivial matters aren't worth bringing up. Pei Shanhe cut my mom off, then turned to look at me. I have every right to lecture you. I lowered my eyes and didn't say anything. Pei Shanhe frowned tightly. Let me ask you first. Is Wanning really going to divorce you? I don't know. My voice was hoarse. I can't get in touch with her. Uncle Pei Shanchuan stood up right away, said earnestly, Xian, you must never divorce Wanning. Do you know how hard it is to run business now? The Pei family barely survives, only relying on the Mu Group. If the Mu Group pulls out its investment, we'll be totally done for. Once Pei Corporation goes bankrupt, thousands of employees will lose their jobs. Pei Corporation is your father's lifelong work. How can you bear to let that happen? Your dad loves you so much. He poured so much effort into you. When you eloped years ago, he drove all night to find you and got into a car accident. His leg never fully recovered. It still aches when it rains. How can you bear to let him down? I stood at the doorway with a dry mouth. I just realized I had been inside for ages, and no one even offered me a glass of water. I swayed slightly. Seeing this, Pei Shanhe hurried over to support me. His voice softened a little. Sit down first. Someone hurriedly gave up their seat. I was numbly guided to the center of the sofa. Send Wanning a WeChat to apologize. Beg for her forgiveness. Tell her you want to have a baby with her. Pei Shanhe's words filled me with humiliation. I let out a sarcastic laugh. Even if I send that, she doesn't want a baby at all. Pei Shanhe cut me off. Just send it first. I'll watch you send it. The gate of a villa at Yunhu Resort was tightly closed. Several black-clad bodyguards patrolled back and forth outside. Inside, at the long wooden table, 2 neat rows of people were seated. Mu Wanning rested her hand on the document, looking calm. You have 3 minutes. Either you agree and sign the contract right now, or we end this negotiation immediately. After saying that, she casually picked up the coffee beside her and took a sip, then glanced down at her watch. It was exactly 6 p.m. She has always been patient. This merger negotiation has dragged on for 3 days. The other side was about to give in. Sure enough, when the time was up, the person opposite reached out his hand. I'm impressed, President Mu. Happy to cooperate. Mu Wanning shook his hand, asked her team to handle the follow-up work, then stood up and walked out. For this acquisition case of Mu Group, since it involves the chip industry, they were afraid of information leakage and rivals snatching the deal, so confidentiality was a top priority. They specially brought both teams to Yunhu Resort, confiscated all electronic devices, and blocked all network signals. Until the negotiation ends, no one can contact the outside world. The resort is located in the suburbs of North City. It takes nearly 2 hours to drive back. The non-stop negotiation really wore her out. As soon as she got in the car, Mu Wanning closed her eyes to rest. Less than 2 minutes later, she heard Ji Xiaonian call her timidly. President Mu Wanning didn't move. What's the matter? It's my fault. The video of Mr. Pei and Su Mengyao leaked 3 days ago. Now everyone online is saying Mr. Pei is going to divorce you. Mu Wanning opened her eyes abruptly. In the rearview mirror, her dark eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of cold frost. I stared down at the WeChat chat box. I want you to have my baby. I stared at this line for a second, then suddenly put away my phone. I'm not sending this. What did you say? My throat was dry. I don't want to lose my dignity like this. I clenched my hand into a fist. Just then, the phone rang. The name Mu Wanning lit up on the screen. It looked like a life-saving straw. Pei Shanhei kept winking at me wildly. I took a deep breath, swiped to answer the call, waiting for the final verdict. On the other end of the line, Mu Wanning's voice sounded extremely cold. I only ask you one thing. Do you want to divorce me? Before I could speak, Pei Shanhei leaned close to the phone, putting on a flattering smile. Wanning, how could that be possible? Xian, he would never. Pei Xian. Mu Wanning cut Pei Shanhei off, calling me by my full name. I'm asking you. Pei Shanhei didn't dare say another word. He just kept winking at me. It was actually only a few seconds long, but to Mu Wanning it felt like a whole century. She finally heard my answer. I never wanted a divorce. Mu Wanning breathed a small sigh of relief. I'll be there in 2 hours. She hung up the phone. Only then did Mu Wanning see the messages I sent earlier. Sorry, I can explain. It's not what you think. Worry clouds one's judgment. She even forgot to check her phone first. Mu Wanning's gaze darkened slightly. She turned and ordered Jia Xiaonian. Within 2 hours, find out who leaked the divorce news. Or don't bother coming to work tomorrow. When they learned Mu Wanning was coming, the entire Pei family panicked immediately. They rushed to tidy up the living room and waited with obsequious smiles. 2 hours later, the door was pushed open. Mu Wanning was wearing a long black dress and walked right in. Someone next to me nudged me. What are you zoning out for? Get up and greet Wanning already. The second Mu Wanning walked in, her eyes locked right onto me. There were so many people around. She could tell right away I'd had a rough day. When she saw I didn't move, Pei Shanhei hurried over with a smile. Wanning, Pei Xian is young and naive. I've already taught him a lesson. You're such a generous person. Don't stoop to his level. He then turned to me and said, Why aren't you coming over to apologize to Wanning? I lowered my eyes and stood up. I was just about to speak. Mu Wanning's icy gaze swept over Pei Shanhei. Her voice was cold and deep. Mu Wanning's husband. Is none of your business to scold? My heart skipped a beat. I looked up at her. My fingers squeezed the phone tightly. I'd never thought that the person protecting me in this mess would be Mu Wanning. And among all the Pei family members, including my own parents, no one stood up for me. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. After a moment, He Wanking pulled Pei Shanhei back and scolded him. The kid's all grown up. Stop nagging at him all the time. She then turned to Mu Wanning with an apologetic smile. Wanning, this was our fault. On behalf of Pei Xian, I'd like to apologize to you. Apologize for what? Mu Wanning's voice was calm. I told Su Mengyao to meet him. Everyone was shocked. I was stunned once more, staring blankly at Mu Wanning. Why would she say that? Mu Wanning spoke in a flat tone, like she was talking about something totally ordinary. I told him to go end things with her and return everything he owed. My guys were waiting right outside. He was only in the private room for 12 minutes total. What could he possibly do? No one saw this coming. Pei Xian froze for a second. then smiled immediately. He breathed a sigh of relief. Oh, so that's what happened. I've been running around worried sick these past 2 days, that I forgot to listen to Pei Xian's explanation. Everyone knew that was just an excuse, but no one would call him out on it. Mu Wanning held out her hand to me. Come here. It was the first time I loved hearing those 2 words from her. I slowly walked over to her. In front of everyone, Mu Wanning took the initiative to hold my hand. I've been negotiating a chip acquisition deal these days. It was a closed-door negotiation, so my phone was off the whole time. You won't be mad at me, right? I shook my head, feeling extremely embarrassed. Of course not. Mu Wanning didn't even bother lifting her eyes, since it's all a misunderstanding. We'll be leaving now. She was holding my hand about to walk out the door. Pei Shani suddenly got a call from the neighborhood security office, saying that a group of reporters had gathered at the gate, asking to interview Mu Wanning. Mu Wanning's expression tightened. She just got back from the resort. It had only been a few minutes, and the reporters had already shown up. Someone obviously tipped them off on purpose. A cold smile played on her lips. I looked at her, feeling worried and guilty. Mu Wanning noticed I was worried. She laced her fingers through mine, interlocking our fingers tightly. I'll handle this. The car slowly drove to the gate. The community gate was opened. A crowd of reporters swarmed forward. Mu Wanning said, "Wait for me in the car." I subconsciously grabbed Mu Wanning's hand. "I'll go with you." Mu Wanning's voice was flat. "Have you figured out how to answer the reporters' questions?" I was slightly stunned. Before I could say anything, Mu Wanning had already pushed the door open and got out. Reporters held microphones right in front of Mu Wanning's face. The car blocked out most of the noise. Only a faint murmur could be heard. I rolled the window down about a finger's width. Noise flooded into the car in an instant like a tide. Questions came pouring in. "Will you divorce your husband, please? What do you think of President Su?" "Meeting your husband." Mu Wanning looked calm. She handled the questions with ease. "We won't get divorced. Of course he told me about meeting President Su beforehand. As for what they talked about, that's my husband's privacy. It's not appropriate for me to disclose." A reporter asked, "Is Mr. Gu in the car? Can we ask him to come out and say a few words? My husband is not available right now." I pushed the car door open and got out. Reporters immediately held microphones in front of my face. Mu Wanning paused for a second. She pushed through the crowd and walked to my side. One hand blocked the several cameras aimed straight at my face. Her other arm pulled me behind her to shield me. I looked up at the reporters in front of me. "I did meet President Su. It was just to return old items from the past. I have a clear conscience. I have never done anything to wrong my wife." I looked over at Mu Wanning. "I also want to thank my wife for her trust and respect for me." Mu Wanning was a little surprised. A cold gust of wind blew past. Mu Wanning leaned into my arms naturally. This scene was immediately captured by the reporters' cameras. Mu Wanning waited until the reporters got enough footage. She looked straight at a certain camera, as if she was talking to someone through the lens. When you truly love someone, you won't push him into the eye of the storm. My husband and I have a very strong relationship. It can absolutely stand any test. President Su can feel free to try whatever she wants. You can never take him away from me. Mu Wanning's tone was full of arrogance and disdain. She didn't take her rival Su Mengyao seriously at all. Her words were full of powerful aura. All the reporters were impressed by her. In the moment, they were stunned. Mu Wanning had already taken me back to the car. Hills Hotel Presidential Suite. Su Mengyao was looking at her phone, at the footage of Mu Wanning hugging me, and listening to that provocative line. She was so angry that she slammed her phone at the TV. She wasn't just angry at Mu Wanning's words, but also her action. What that intimate gesture meant, she knew perfectly well. Feel free to try. Mu Wanning is getting too arrogant. She lowered her eyes and calmed down. She took a voice recorder out of her briefcase and played the audio inside over and over again. I did like you before. But I'm already married. But you don't love her. Love her or not, she's still my wife. A cold glint flashed in Su Mengyao's eyes. She handed the voice recorder to Zhang Ting. Handle this properly. The black Bentley slowly drove into Emerald Bay and stopped at the villa gate. Inside the cramped car, the atmosphere was dead silent. Mu Wanning opened her eyes and didn't even glance at me. She pushed the door open and got out. I followed right behind her. Looking at her cold back, I only realized later that she was angry. The protection she gave me in front of the media was just for the sake of the overall situation. She still minded it in private. After entering the door and changing shoes, Mu Wanning took off her black coat and threw it on the entryway cabinet. Her voice was cold. Don't let this happen again. Her attitude right now was completely different from how she acted in front of the media just now. I tried to explain, I went to see her because I'm not interested in the stuff between you and your ex. Mu Wanning cut me off directly. I froze on the spot. I watched her figure disappear into the living room and stood there for ages without moving. She was really angry. She wouldn't even listen to my explanation. I was a little confused. This was a bit different from what I expected. I wasn't sure why she was angry, but I knew I was the one to blame for this whole mess. I walked quickly into the bedroom. Mu Wanning was standing in front of the wardrobe, with her back to the door. She was changing clothes when I spoke up. I went to see Sumeng Yao to return all the old stuff. That way I can cut ties with her completely. Mu Wanning undid the last button. Without turning around, Mr. Pei, from the moment you married me, you've already cut all ties with her for good. I froze for a second. She finished putting on her pajamas. When she walked past me, she gave me a quick, casual glance. Since you don't plan on getting a divorce, you better put away whatever feelings you have for her. A faint scent of her perfume drifted past my nose and vanished right away. Too fast to catch. I snapped back to my senses a few seconds later. What does put away my feelings for her even mean? Does Mu Wanning actually think I still like Sumeng Yao? I got pissed off immediately. Am I stupid enough to get dumped once and still be hung up on that person? That accusation is so embarrassing. There's no way I'm taking that. I turned around and chased after her right away. Mu Wanning had just walked into the bathroom. I stormed all the way over there. I pushed the door open and said confidently, "Who told you I still have feelings for her? I stopped liking her 4 years ago, okay? Don't insult me like that." I froze suddenly, only to realize Mu Wanning was completely naked, standing right in front of me. There was a hint of surprise in her eyes. I was so embarrassed. Didn't she just walk in? How did she get undressed so fast? I turned around to leave right away, but she grabbed my wrist precisely. She tugged hard and pulled me right in front of her. Her cool voice came from beside my ear. "Explain yourself." Her hand was pressed against my chest. The scorching heat spread to my heart. I said awkwardly, "How am I supposed to talk like this?" "Let's talk after you finish showering first." Mu Wanning stroked my waist gently with her hand, like some kind of hint. My lips felt a little dry. I turned my face away and pushed her. "I'm thirsty. I need to get some water. Go take your shower first." She thought for a second and let go of my wrist. I bolted out immediately and slammed the bathroom door shut. I touched my burning hot cheek. I grabbed a bottle of mineral water from the fridge and pressed it against my face to cool it down. It took ages for the heat to fade. I sat on the sofa and zoned out for a while. Suddenly I heard the shower in the bathroom turn off. I froze for a second. That whole scene just now was so cringy and embarrassing. Seeing that Mu Wanning was about to come out, I didn't even think about it. I grabbed a random item from the closet, a set of pajamas, and went to the upstairs bathroom to take a shower. It was already over an hour later when I came out. I tiptoed downstairs. Mu Wanning was sitting on the sofa. She lifted her eyes and looked at me. "I thought you were planning to move in there." The sarcasm in her tone was so faint it was barely noticeable. Instead, there was a hint of amusement in it. "Come here." I walked over and sat down next to her. Mu Wanning spoke calmly. "Finish what you were going to say earlier." I spoke a little uncomfortably. I got over her completely 4 years ago. I'm not the type who gets dumped once and still obsesses over their ex like a love-struck fool. Mu Wanning glanced at me. Her look clearly said, "Yeah, right." I suddenly remembered the time I tried to elope back then and failed, and she dragged me back home. I suddenly fell silent too. A few seconds of silence passed. Mu Wanning seemed to want to help me out and said, "At least you're not like that now." I sighed quietly. That was worse than no help at all. What happened back then is all in the past. I only went to see her this time for a sense of closure, I said softly. She left without saying goodbye back then. I always felt like we didn't get a proper goodbye. I couldn't make peace with my past self otherwise. Mu Wanning waited a few seconds and said calmly, "So you felt regretful and wanted to see her?" "No, she clearly misunderstood me," I said immediately. "I don't have any regrets about her at all. I went to see her to give my past self a proper closure." Mu Wanning didn't say anything. She seemed to be trying to understand what I meant. A few minutes later, she lifted her eyelids and looked at me. "Then why did you hide it from me? Were you scared I wouldn't let you see her?" "Of course not. I didn't know you'd be so," I thought for a long time, and finally spat out a word. "Mature and generous. I just simply thought it's better to avoid unnecessary trouble. After all, we're not that close to each other." By the time I finished talking, my voice got softer and softer. Mu Wanning raised an eyebrow. She stood up and walked toward the bedroom. "You're tired today too, go get some rest." Tiredness isn't the main issue. I'm mostly just hungry. I barely ate anything these past 2 days. But it's too late right now. Mu Wanning hasn't been sleeping well these days either. I don't want to make a fuss. So I followed her into the bedroom. Each of us lay on one side of the bed, covered with our own thin quilts. Neither of us said a word. The only sound in the quiet air was our breathing. It was just like this when we slept together before. We didn't interfere with each other. I got used to it a long time ago, but I couldn't fall asleep today. I kept feeling like our earlier conversation wasn't over. I still owed her an apology. After a moment, I called out to her tentatively. Mu Wanning, what's up? Her voice was cool and calm. I took a deep breath in the dark. I'm sorry I shouldn't have hidden this from you. I caught you completely off guard with this. Mu Wanning replied in a flat tone. It wasn't that much of a surprise, honestly. I turned on the bedside lamp. The dim, soft, warm light lit up Mu Wanning's face. I sat up slightly. Propping my arm on the bed, I asked her suddenly, why did you help me so much today? Mu Wanning opened her eyes and took off her glasses. Her eyes looked much softer, but her voice was still just as cold. What do you think? I bit my lip. I'll be a good husband to you from now on. I won't make you lose face again. Mu Wanning's expression was indifferent. Good that you know. She closed her eyes again. We were both exhausted these past few days. I fell asleep really fast. It was past 10 a.m. when I woke up the next day. Probably because I've been working nonstop. Mu Wanning rarely slept in. She was still asleep. I picked up my phone very gently. I saw a message sent by Li Hao. That marketing account said someone paid him to leak the info. As for who that person was, he wouldn't say. I frowned and reopened that secretly filmed video. The camera angle was extremely high. There's no way a paparazzi could get that angle. It was clearly surveillance footage from the club hallway. The person who leaked the video was obvious. It was Su Mengyao. My fingertips trembled slightly. Endless disappointment welled up in my heart. I never would have thought the person I was willing to elope with back then would go to such lengths to harm me now. Your ex-girlfriend is really pretty. A cool voice suddenly sounded behind me. I was so scared I almost dropped my phone. I turned around to look at Mu Wanning, who had woken up. I wasn't looking at her. I suspect Su Mengyao posted the video. Mu Wanning's expression softened a little. You didn't figure it out too late, I guess. I was shocked. You knew this already. She nodded faintly. That's when I realized when she said yesterday she wouldn't be caught off guard. She wasn't lying at all. I was just about to ask how she found out. Mu Wanning's phone rang. She answered the call. Xia Xiaonian's anxious voice came through the line. President Mu. Su Mengyao made a response. I was close enough to hear every word clearly. I quickly opened Weibo. The top trending search was exactly Su Mengyao's response video. In the footage, she was leaning against a Bugatti, smiling gently, facing the reporter's questions. She said unhurriedly, Since President Mu invited me warmly, of course I'll accept the invitation. She was wearing a gold necklace around her neck. It was the couple necklace we had back then. Rose and Little Princess. The atmosphere went cold in an instant. I pressed my lips tight. Holding the phone, I didn't move for a long time. Has Su Mengyao lost all her morals? How can she even say something like that? I gave her the necklace back to cut ties with her completely, not so she could wear it out in public. I'm already married. Do you get that? Does she have any idea that the best ex-partner should act like they're dead and vanish from each other's lives entirely? The video ended. The last frame froze on Su Mengyao's face. She looked at the camera with a gentle smile, like she was provoking Mu Wanning, who looked at the camera earlier. I didn't dare look at Mu Wanning's face for a long time, until my arm went stiff. I pretended to be casual and put down my phone. I slowly looked over at Mu Wanning. Mu Wanning happened to be looking at me too. Her eyes were completely calm, but it felt like the calm before a storm. I gritted my teeth and picked up my phone. I'll call her to sort this out clearly. You still have his phone number. Gunyanchi's voice was completely calm, but there was a cold edge to it. I deleted it ages ago, I explained in a panic. But I can still get in touch with him somehow. Wasn't what you two said last time clear enough? Mu Wanning grabbed my phone and tossed it on the bedside, then squeezed my wrist hard, and said word for word, Mr. Pei, you are not allowed to contact her again. I agreed. Okay, I won't contact her. Mu Wanning let go of my wrist, and said nothing more, then got up and left. The relationship between us that had just finally eased became precarious again because of Su Mengyao's provocation. I was absent-minded while eating breakfast. That rose necklace kept popping up in my mind for no reason. I kept feeling uneasy. I have to tell Mu Wanning about this. Otherwise, who knows what trouble will come up. The lesson from last time was more than enough. Mu Wanning finished eating and was about to get up and leave, when I reached out to stop her. I hesitated and said, There's something... Go ahead. That necklace was interrupted by Mu Wanning. The love token. How did you know? Mu Wanning's voice was perfectly calm. You wore a matching couple necklace set with little princess and rose design before. It's not hard to recognize. I felt a little awkward for a second, like someone dug up my embarrassing old secrets. I stirred the coffee in front of me with a spoon. As long as you know about it. I'm worried she'll use this to make a big deal out of nothing. So you should be mentally prepared too. You are the one who needs to be mentally prepared. Mu Wanning lowered her eyes and looked at me. I'm afraid everything from your past will be used by her to cause trouble. I froze for a second. She was probably right. It looked like Su Mengyao wasn't going to let this go easily. An indescribable restlessness rose in my chest. Mu Wanning suddenly lowered her head. A shadow fell over my vision. She leaned close to my ear. Her voice low. Mr. Pei, will you switch sides? No. I answered immediately without hesitation. Even if we weren't married, I wouldn't. I'm a perfectionist when it comes to love. I can't stand even the smallest flaw, Mu Wanning said softly. Remember what you just said. After Mu Wanning left, my phone started ringing. It was Shen Yue on the line. She wanted to meet me to talk about film investment. I subconsciously looked at the study door, which was open. Mu Wanning just happened to glance back at me. I quickly looked away and focused on the phone call. This was Mu Wanning's first time taking time off at home after we got married. We were under the same roof all day. The atmosphere was awkward and distant. The whole morning, Mu Wanning stayed in the study. I stayed in the living room. We stayed out of each other's way completely. We barely talked during lunch either. Before going out, I was stuck on whether I should tell her my plans, and hesitated for half a minute over it. In the end, I decided not to. After all, Mu Wanning never asked about my schedule anyway. If I suddenly told her, it would look like I was trying too hard. It was almost time. I changed my clothes and got ready to leave. Mu Wanning just came downstairs at that moment. I subconsciously told her my plans. I have a meeting with people from Huacheng to talk about film investment. Mu Wanning nodded. What time? 4 o'clock. Mu Wanning glanced at the time. Wait a few minutes for me. I'm heading out too anyway. I can drop you off on the way. I froze for a second, my breathing slowing down unconsciously. Okay. Mu Wanning was ready in 10 minutes. She didn't make me late. We didn't talk much on the way. It was like we were acting in a super awkward silent movie. Shen Yue was around 40 years old, with very short hair. She had the vibe of a cool artistic lady. She was rolling that thin film script in her hand. Director Pei, to be honest. Your script reminded me of the guy. I had a crush on when I was 18 or 19. It really moved me. I smiled. Thank you. It's so realistic and relatable. I wonder if it's based on your own story, Director Pei. I took a sip of the tea in front of me and didn't answer. Shen Yue smiled. Sorry, I don't mean to pry into your privacy. I just think filmmakers should be sincere enough, open up, and pour their own emotions into their work. There's nothing wrong with admitting it. I put down the disposable paper cup. Of course, I really did pour my own feelings into it. I personally tweaked loads of details in this script myself. But it's definitely not my story. It was written by a second-year female grad student at Beijing Film Academy. What that means is, the story is told from a female perspective. As a guy, I could never write such a highly relatable female perspective that resonates with everyone. I see. Kanyuk nodded. Funding is totally no problem. Let's sign the contract as soon as we can, to get it released in next year's summer movie slot. Shen Yue is super decisive and efficient, and signed the contract right on the spot. I didn't expect this to go so smoothly, and left feeling completely over the moon. Little did I know that Shen Yue immediately turned to contact Su,